Have you been asked the question, when are you having kids? Or are you having another kid? Or, wow, are you having any more? You already have so many. Any of these questions resonate with you? If they do, you're not alone. There are so many questions around motherhood, whether you choose to be a mother, and if it feels aligned to you. Once you have a kid, are you having another one? And so much more. Join me this week as we take a look at the paradox of womanhood, the motherhood edition, and whether motherhood feels aligned or not, and why people should just mind their own business and not try to pressure you into things that don't feel aligned. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of Reproductive Rebel. How many of you struggle with the feeling of being too much or not enough? Any takers? I see hands going up. I know mine's going up along with you because this is a theme that many of us struggle with. So today I want to talk about it around the topic of kids. So if you are in this never feeling like enough or too much camp, you probably have had some level of experience with it around childbearing. If you don't have kids, you get pressured into and people talk to you about why you're not having kids. If you have kids, you have one, and no sooner than that first one is born, you're already getting asked if you're going to have another one. You have another child, and then people are talking about the fact you have too many kids because you have two or more, and there's faces and comments associated with it. This reminds me of that beautiful monologue that America Ferrera does in the Barbie movie. If you have not seen the Barbie movie, I didn't know what I was going to think of it, and it was so beautifully well thought out and done. I would highly recommend you see it if you haven't seen it. I will totally not do justice to the magic that was America Ferrera's monologue towards the end of the movie. But she talks about this juxtaposition that we're told that we have to be thin, but we have to be this and we have to be that, but we can't be too much of this and we can't be too much of that. That is the female lived experience. And it is so true when you're talking about children. Because during your childbearing years, people are always asking you, are you going to have children? When are you going to have children? How many children are you going to have? I have a really, really close friend of mine who just knew that mothering in terms of having her own biological children was not something she desired to do. She has a lot of mothering characteristics. She puts that energy out into the world, but she didn't want to have her own offspring. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because you're of childbearing age does not mean you have to have children. And we have this really uncomfortable narrative and understanding and conversation in the larger collective around having kids. And it isn't for everybody. And that's okay. If anything, I think it's more responsible and more awakened and more aligned when people can actually admit, this doesn't feel good to me. This doesn't feel aligned to me. This isn't something that's calling me. If you had asked me as a younger woman, I was kind of on the fence about having children. And once I had my first child, my whole set of feelings around that changed. So just because you make a decision now doesn't mean you can't change that decision later on, but it's your body. It is your body. And deciding what feels aligned for your energy is up to you. I remember after I had my daughter, I had a very well-intentioned family member ask when we were planning on having another one. And I'm like, wow, that's such a loaded question. Because of the circumstances that I was in at the time, it didn't feel aligned to me. Then when it did feel aligned to me, every time we got asked that question, when I married the love of my life and we decided that we wanted to try to have a baby of our own, every time we got asked, "Are you guys having kids? Why isn't she pregnant yet?" Again, well-intentioned family members, but that created a lot of shame and guilt because what they didn't know was what was going on behind the curtain. I had had multiple miscarriages, and that wasn't something that I felt like sharing with the general public, at least at that time. Now I've made it very public. If you have been following along on this show for any length of time now, you know that I have finally gotten to a place where I'm comfortable enough to talk about my lived experience, and I do it to be able to help others and to share my own story so that others don't feel so alone in the journey that they're traveling. But there was a long period of time where it was so gut-wrenchingly hard for me that I didn't wanna talk about it. I couldn't talk about it. I had a really hard time owning the fact that I was a reproductive specialist and having this personal struggle going on in the background. So, while it helped me and it made me a better practitioner and it shaped what I do and it shaped my practice and it helped me show up in service for all of you in the way that I can now, and I'm grateful for all of that. I'm still a soul in a human body having a human experience, right? So all of the emotional baggage that came with that was very hard for me for a long time. So I really think that it's hard, and I want to frame this episode around this topic because women feel an incredible amount of pressure around child rearing. Incredible amount of pressure. And the thing is it makes it so hard to voice what we actually need, what we actually want. Some women can stand in that power, but others are so guilt-ridden and shame-ridden around either choices that they're actively making, challenges that they're experiencing, whatever it is. It's just like you don't ask a woman her age. Like, this is a topic that people should be avoiding in general conversation unless it's invited. I know that's my opinion, but I really feel like this topic raises so much around this idea of feeling like enough. I mean, just think about what I shared about my own story. It was hard for me for a long time. I felt guilty, and I felt a lot of shame around the fact that I wasn't able to carry a healthy baby. So, asking these kinds of questions generate a lot of feelings for people around this feeling of being enough. And then once you've had children, if you have more than 1 or 2, people are looking at you sideways. I have 3 older children, and we are a blended family, and a lot of forms don't allow for you to enter more than 2 names, right? Because there's this assumption that we only have 1 or 2 children in this culture. And when you have more than that, people go, "Wow, you have a lot of kids." Well, I mean, my dad was one of 5. So this question is hard because even a couple of generations ago, we were looking at much larger family sizes. Speaking of family sizes, I guess I'm going to do the rest of this episode with my littlest one in tow. So I have 3 older children, and now my youngest is 13 years younger than my previous youngest, who's now a bigger sister. And people are like, "Oh, but you're so old." So it's never the right time. You never have the right number. Then you're not the right age. Like, there's just so many things that come up that, people have distinct opinions. And that's exactly what they are, is their opinions. And opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. And sometimes they stink. So I am bringing this to the surface because this is hard. We are navigating hard stuff. We are enough. You are enough. And being able to stand in your power and say, this doesn't feel aligned to me, or I want to have a whole football team, and who are you to judge me? That is standing in your power and doing what feels aligned to you. And our culture has always had a running commentary about what they think we should and shouldn't do with our bodies, what we should and shouldn't do with our lives. We're supposed to work like we don't parent and parent like we don't work. It doesn't fucking work. As I sit here recording this episode with my 4-month-old on my lap because he just wants to be held. We do what we've got to do. And the thing is how many children and whether you have children is such a personal decision. And honestly, with how expensive life is getting, how crazy it is to find childcare. And if you are listening to this in the United States, the fact that we don't have paid family leave and we don't have access to the same kinds of childcare that they do in other countries, the fact that if we have a child, we have to financially plan to be out of work for as long as we can actually manage it for. And many of us are going back to work before our bodies are ready. Like, whether you have kids or not is a personal fucking decision.
And now we take a break from our program for a special message. Beloved one, the time of activation has arrived. The ancient ways are calling, and the portal to sacred healing is open. If you've been feeling the pull to deepen your wisdom in holistic women's health, let me tell you about Rebel Rising, the 2.0 evolution of our practitioner training program. The Rebel Rising program is a sacred container for those ready to reclaim the lost arts of feminine healing. This year, we are offering 2 powerful paths of study: pelvic steaming, a deep remembrance of womb healing and energetic clearing, and sound healing, where vibrational medicine meets embodied restoration. If you feel the resonance, trust it. Classes begin March 26th, and an exclusive tuition discount is available through February 28th. The portal won't stay open forever. Enrollment closes March 24th. If you are ready to rise, visit moonessence.life to claim your space. The time is now. And now, back to the show.
And yet, because birthing is supposedly this very natural female thing, if you are biologically a female, you will at some point in your life get asked questions about whether you're having kids, when you're having kids, how many kids you're going to have, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really inappropriate because we can only make that decision from a place that is aligned for us. And it is no judgment or no statement. People do judge. People outside of us do judge. But it is really a personal decision that you have every right to stand in your power and own. And I even feel guilty as a practitioner asking some of my clients after they've had babies if they're planning on having more children, because I feel like I'm feeding that bullshit paradigm every time I ask. Now, as a practitioner, I ask because sometimes my clients surprise me and go, "Yeah, I would like to start trying in the next year." And it's like, "Woo, okay, that's a little faster than I expected. So we need to do X, Y, and Z to try to get your body ready for that." Because your hormones don't level set themselves until at least 6 to 12 months after you have your baby. So your body needs time to like come back and recover from the fact that you've just spent 9 months building a miracle. But that is literally the only reason I ask. But I feel uncomfortable when I ask that question every single time. And it's because I'm so hyper aware that women get asked this all the time. And the thing is whether you choose to have kids or not is no value judgment on you as a person. I'm going to say that again because I know it's really hard for some of you to stand in your power and be like, no, having children does not feel aligned to me. And that's okay. And I know that there are parents out there because they want to be grandparents and blah, blah, blah. They really make this hard. And I don't believe that it's being done from a place that they don't love you. It's the fact that they want you to share in what they experienced for joy. If they are excited to have grandchildren, they very likely enjoyed their parenting process, but it's not for everyone. And the thing is there are many people who become parents that haven't done the internal work to be able to parent differently than they were raised because they may have had a less than desirable childhood for whatever reason. And they may choose not to have kids because they're afraid to repeat history, right? You don't know what somebody is bringing to the table around children. Maybe they've been trying and they're struggling. Maybe they've been trying, they were struggling, and then they gave up and decided this doesn't feel aligned anymore because it's ruining my relationship with my partner. All of those things are valid. All of those things are okay. And it doesn't make you less than, and it doesn't make you not enough. So whether you decide to have 9 children, or you decide to have 1, or you decide to have a fur baby because a biological child is not in the cards for you for whatever reason, all those choices are okay. You are enough. You are worthy. And your ability to bear children, or your choice and ability to bear children, are no bearing on you as a person and your enoughness. Oh, I just got goosebumps saying that. I'm going to say it again. Your ability to bear children and your choice to bear children has no bearing on your enoughness and your self-worth. I know that is a really hard one, and I'm sure at least one of you cried when I said that. And that's okay. Because we hold this internal monologue so firmly in our system because it has been reinforced over and over and over and over again. Not mothering in the traditional biological sense does not make you any less of a woman. It does not make you any less of a person. There are many women who do not have kids who mother, but in different ways. They are still embodying that energy. They're choosing to use it in different ways, and that's okay. I had an interview, and it's upcoming, about medical astrology. So definitely keep eyes open for that episode. But medical astrology, I mean, if you look at your chart, maybe it's literally not in the stars for you. And that's okay. You are worthy. You are worth it. There is no shame in whatever choice you make around children, whether you want to have them or not. As aware as I am around this topic, it still grinds my gears when people go, "Oh, you have so many children," and the face that goes along with that. There's a group that my kids belong to, and somebody made a comment about the clown car and all of the Irizaris that pile out of the car before the event. And I'm like, wow. In my younger years, that would have been really embarrassing for me. At this point in my life, the sarcasm in me is just like, yes, we're taking over the world. Buckle up. We're going to make the world a better place. Buckle up. Right. But when I was younger, that would have made me feel really insecure. And it would have made me feel shame and guilt. Maybe I had too many kids. Maybe I'm being selfish. But the thing is I don't feel that way anymore. And that's why I felt so called to do this episode, because I've seen it time and time again in my practice. There are women that come in that go, I do not have any desire to have children. And why do I need to work on my reproductive health if I don't want to have children? Because your reproductive health is a marker for your health and longevity for the rest of your life. So if you are not feeling called to have children, but your period sucks and you have fibroids, then you could have other kinds of health related challenges later on that are going to take you away from the travel or the volunteering in an animal shelter or the whatever it is that's calling you that you want to do with your life. So that's why your reproductive health matters, because it is a biomarker for how your whole body is working. And in women's bodies, things that are out of alignment in the rest of the body will show up in the reproductive system first. It will show up there first. And if we address that, we have restored equilibrium in your body. We've brought it back into balance. And then you can go about taking life by the balls in every other way that you want to. That's why reproductive health matters. It's the first place that your body starts to show signs of, Houston, there's a problem. So stand in your power, ladies. You are enough. You are beautiful. You are magnificent. You are special, and you are sovereign. And whatever you choose to do with your fertility and reproductive health is your business and your business alone. This is your permission to say, the hell with it. I'm doing what feels good to me, because it is your life. And there are so many things that influence it, from social stuff like, do I have a family network that can help me? Do I live anywhere near my family? Have I been able to buy a house? In today's economy in the United States, it is so hard for young families to be able to buy a house. And maybe an apartment is not going to be big enough to have a baby in, right? Like, you don't know what people's situations are. It is not your place to say anything to somebody else about whether they do or do not plan to have a child. It does not make them any less of a woman. Does it make you any less of a woman if you choose not to? All of these choices, when they're done in alignment with what feels right in your body, that makes it the right choice for you. It is wild to me to say that I have 4 kids. It's wild, because I never thought that I would have a family like this. And you know what? I'm glad that I do. They've all shaped my life and brought color and texture to my life that I never expected that I would be able to experience. And as a teenager with reproductive health problems, literally out of the gate, I was told I was never going to be able to be a mom. So this is a huge gift to me, but it's not for some, and that's okay. So this paradox of womanhood, okay, there's so many paradoxes of womanhood. I should just sit down with the America Ferrera monologue and go through all of these juxtapositions that she puts in there. It was so beautifully worded. I highly, highly recommend you check it out if you haven't heard it already, because it talks about all of the places where we're too much or not enough. We're supposed to be this way or that way. It's kind of like that Usher quote, a lady in the street, but a freak in the bed. And yet we're supposed to be so demure and innocent and pure, but we're supposed to be a tiger behind closed doors. How does that exist in the same body? What? So we as women live in a paradox all the time. Parent like we don't work, work like we don't parent. Man, I feel that one. And a lot of us that parented through the pandemic feel that one deeply. We were trying to work full-time jobs while we had children home, trying to navigate Zoom school. I started getting a cortisol belly because the stress was so high. The stakes were so high. And I was like, you know what? And what they're learning, holy cow, I'm going to bring my kids home and I'm going to homeschool. And I'm so grateful that I did that. I had a more meaningful connection with them. They grew and learned in ways that they were not going to get in a bigger system. It's made them richer. It's made them more dynamic. It's made them able to talk to people in a totally different way than other kids their age, which is really productive. I am so glad I made that choice. It was hard, but it was the best choice for them and for me. So we make choices that put us in alignment with our truth. And that is womanhood in a nutshell. It's womanhood in a nutshell. We have to trust that we are powerful, our voices matter, and we are enough. And that is really, truly what matters. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.